VDL bites the bullet, received hellish backlash from EU bloc over Belarus-Poland migrant crisis. Brussels is not doing enough to counteract Belarus' threat at the border with Poland, an expert on European foreign policy has claimed. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said thousands of people stranded on the European Union's eastern border represent an attempt by Belarus to destabilize the bloc, rather than a migrant crisis, and as such call for a coordinated response. She told the European Parliament on Tuesday that the 27-nation bloc was standing in solidarity with Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia, who are bearing the brunt of what the EU says is President Alexander Lukashenko's ploy to engineer a crisis by flying in migrants into Belarus and then pushing them across EU borders. Mrs. von der Leyen said the EU was also coordinating its response to Lukashenko's challenge with its non-EU partners, the United States, Canada, and Britain, to deter intermediaries transporting migrants to Belarus from helping Minsk. The EU would create a blacklist of travel companies involved in trafficking and smuggling of migrants, she said. It would provide the EU with a legal tool to suspend or limit the operations of companies, or even ban them from the EU if they were engaged in human trafficking, according to EU Commissioner Margaritis Schinas. But according to Piper Coase, a researcher in the Eurasia program at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, Brussels could be doing a lot more to diffuse tensions on the border. Speaking to Express.co.uk, the Philadelphia-based expert said, "I do think that there is more to be done, because obviously, nothing that's being done right now is quite effective as Lukashenko doesn't seem to be taking any warnings. And this has been happening for months. This was happening in Lithuania first and Poland was a predictable second country. Lukashenko has completely orchestrated this entire humanitarian crisis, and I think the EU should definitely be putting more sanctions on Belarus to get the type of compliance from him." According to the EU, over 40,000 attempts to enter the EU via the Belarus border were prevented in 2021. The EU hit Belarus with sanctions after Lukashenko's violent crackdown on protests against his disputed re-election last year, and Brussels earlier this month agreed to expand those to airlines, travel agencies and individuals involved in the movement of migrants. Minsk cleared migrant camps at the border and agreed to the first repatriation flights in months last week, and on Tuesday reported that about 120 migrants had left on November 22 and more were due to follow. But authorities in Warsaw said repeated incidents at the border showed Minsk may have changed tactics but had not given up plans to use migrants fleeing the Middle East and other hotspots as a weapon in the standoff with the EU. Border Guard spokesperson Anna Migalska said about 50 migrants tried to cross on Monday evening, with 18 briefly making it across the barbed wire barrier. Another group of similar size gathered but ultimately gave up an attempt to cross at another location. Polish authorities estimate about 10,000 or more migrants could be still in Belarus, he said, creating the potential for further problems. For Poland's ruling Law and Justice Party, being caught in the middle of a geopolitical showdown between Belarus and the European Union isn't a bad place to be. Having built its brand on victimhood at the hands of Brussels, Berlin, and Moscow for years, the party has been happy to step into its new self-designated role as the solitary bulwark protecting Europe from the years-old migrant bogeyman and the bloc's enemies to the east. In the face of Belarus's attempts to use desperate migrants from Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere to its advantage against the EU, Poland's government has launched its own counter-offensive over the past few weeks, publishing dramatic videos on social media and launching a dedicated web page to combat the lies and disinformation coming from Belarus. Meanwhile, Poland's Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has put out English-language speeches directed at Europe, warning that the confrontation with Belarus may be the precursor to a more dangerous military challenge from Russia. Lukashenko, who denies the allegation that he fomented the crisis, has pressured the EU and Germany, in particular, to accept some migrants while Belarus repatriates others, a demand the bloc has so far flatly rejected. Referring to the Belarusian dictator's demand, Ms. Coase added, "He's going to keep making these asks, so something bigger needs to be done in order to defuse this crisis." It's a real issue and not much is being done currently. Humanitarian agencies say as many as 13 migrants have died at the border, where many have suffered in a cold, damp forest with little food or water as winter sets in. With little food or